Story 1. I used to because I thought everything would go to black. But no, it is ceasing to exist, which is impossible to comprehend, but nothing to fear. Seeing black would be some form of existence. We didn't exist before we were born, and it won't be any different after we die. I only fear the death of my loved ones. Story 2. Memento mori. Rather than letting it scare you, let it motivate you to live every moment of every day. Time is a one-way street. Listen to people's deathbed regrets and apply them to life now. That is why I cuddle my 5-year-old to sleep every night. I know there will come a last time one way or another. That is why I exercise, so that I can most fully enjoy the time I have available to me. It's why I don't try to get promoted or become a celebrity in my field and so on. I work to live rather than living to work. I find fulfillment in my relationships with my wife, my daughter, my friends, and my students much more than finding fulfillment in my field of study. Finally, Epicurus had this significant contribution to make. Why should I fear death? If I am, death is not. If death is, I am not. Why should I fear that which cannot exist when I do? Story 3. When you are dead, you won't know that you are dead. I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. Mark Twain. Death does not concern us because as long as we exist, death is not here. And once it does come, we no longer exist. Epicurus. Finally, we only have one life. This is not a dress rehearsal, so make the most of every day. Story 4. To me, it would be like being afraid of going to sleep. Dying will obviously change the way I experience my life, but it will happen whether I want it or not, whether I am afraid of it or not. In the meantime, I am alive, and that's not going to last forever. So I might as well focus on what's going on here and now, because this is where my actions can change things. Story 5. I recommend you to read about memento mori. It means remember that you must die. The Stoics use it to encourage you to keep the brevity of life at the forefront of your mind. They believe that by regularly contemplating death, we can strip away the trivial concerns that often consume our daily lives and focus instead on what truly matters. Living according to virtue, striving for wisdom, and nurturing our character. Story 6. It's literally the one and only thing I ever have to do. I got to experience life, which is such an amazing thing, but for that, I owe the universe one death. Fair enough. It's really only the how that concerns me. Story 7. I already almost died. It was lovely. My body and yours will do that too. It releases hormones that made me feel like I was in a warm bath while also being cuddled by 1,000 arms. I felt the safest and most chill ever. When I finally go again, it will be the same. Story 8. I am feeling extremely depressed, but not to the extent of considering suicide. Whenever I pass away, all of this pain and fear will disappear just like I will. I am more afraid of being alive long enough to witness the people I love suffer than the thought of my own death. Story 9. No point in being afraid of something that will definitely happen. Fear is only useful to help us avoid preventable events. While dying might not be particularly comfortable, we don't spend every moment of our day fearing pain. So why should we spend time fearing death? As a Christian, it is even less to be feared because God promises to walk through it with us. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23 verse 4. Story 10. Correction. I am not afraid of death. I am afraid of untimely death, especially if it happens to my loved ones. I am not ready to say goodbye and deal with the aftermath of that death. The expenses, pain, healing, moving on, and adjustment. I don't want that. Story 11. Everyone dies, and I also put my hope in Christ. I just hope it's not sudden and painful. I saw someone doesn't want the long suffering of chronic illness. I'm the opposite. I want to say goodbye and be able to prepare everyone. Story 12. Maybe because it's inevitable and stressing over it doesn't change that. Plus, focusing on living fully right now seems like a better use of time and energy. Story 13. I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. Mark Twain, Story 14, and I am not frightened of dying. Any time will do, I don't mind. Why should I be frightened of dying? There's no reason for it. You've got to go sometime. The Great Gig in the Sky, Pink Floyd. Story 15. When I was 18, I was working at a gas station when two men with guns came in. I was knelt against a wall and was told they were going to kill me. All I could think was, I don't want to die, I haven't lived. My potential future flashed before my eyes and I really didn't want to die. Fast forward 40 years and I walked into a hospital emergency room department as I wasn't feeling well. I was told I had had a heart attack and might have another at any minute. I sat there calmly as the end credits began to scroll. I have lived a life of adventure, loved and been loved, traveled the world, and experienced enough to fill 5 lifetimes. I felt sadness for those I would leave behind, but I was completely at ease with the fact I might die. There was not a single feeling that I had not completed my purpose here. Live your life, don't delay. Fulfill your dreams, whatever they may be. Then when the time comes, and you will no longer fear death. Story 16, 2 reasons for me. 1, death is just part of life. We are born, we stay here a little bit, and then our bodies die. 2nd is my faith. I know my soul goes somewhere else where it is peaceful and will be with loved ones that have believed. Story 17. I am a Christian, so I fully believe I will be in heaven. However, I would be lying if I said I was not scared at all of death. It is still scary to me because it is ultimately unknown, but I have faith that I know what awaits. Story 18. Depending on your belief after death, you either go to heaven or hell according to whichever religion you believe in, or nothing happens because you are no more. What is worse is to end up in a state where you want to die but cannot. For example, being awake but unable to move or communicate. Seeing your family take care of you and stressed over their lives. While you want to ask them to help end your life, you can't. And every time you look at them, they misunderstand it as you wanting to live. So they go on, suffering and trying to help you maintain your life. Story 19. It's inevitable, why waste time worrying? I'm sure I'll have a wave of different emotions about it all once I'm on my deathbed. But that is for the future me to handle. Story 20. Socrates presents a dilemma that gives me some peace. If death is nothingness, then it's like a dreamless sleep, which is nothing to fear. If there is an afterlife, then it's paradise, which again is nothing to fear. The only thing to fear regarding death is if there is an afterlife and you think you are going to hell. But I don't plan on that happening to me, so I don't fear death. Story 21. Because I feel incredibly exhausted, and eternal sleep sounds very nice. I am not suicidal. I accept that when death comes, my time is over, and I can rest. Story 22. I'm an atheist who previously held no belief in any potential afterlife. I was convinced that the near-death experiences people reported having were simply hallucinations or adrenaline overdrive, and so on. Then I started looking into the research of Dr. Jeffrey Long and his massive database of people's experiences when they are effectively dead. It is creepy, exciting, and unbelievable at the same time. The fact that children as young as 4 report seeing the same things as 80-year-old Christians and Muslims freaks me out. My conclusion: whether consciousness ends with death or not, we have absolutely no idea of what's going on here. We think we do, but we don't. We're here for the ride, baby. Story 23. I stopped being afraid of death when my mom passed away. She was my everything and my only family member that was consistent in my life. I was afraid of dying because I didn't want to leave her since she was disabled, and I was her caretaker. Now that I don't have that fear of leaving her all alone, I feel like I can live life to the fullest in honor of her and to make a future worth living. I'm not impulsive, but I have stepped way out of my comfort zone and have been trying so many new things. Life is so short, so live how you want to. Story 24. Because it's not knocking at the door. It never becomes real until you're facing it. Nobody is afraid of death until death is imminent. Then we're all afraid. Story 25. My perception of life and death drastically changed recently after a friend explained what it felt like to be clinically dead and brought back to life. They passed while in the care of a hospital, connected to a ventilation system while being treated for COVID-19. Their lungs collapsed. They described it as a sense of serenity and bliss you can't otherwise tangibly feel while conscious, that all the pain they felt melted away. They said they felt weightless, as if they were consumed by a gravity-free ocean or a sensory deprivation chamber. When they were brought back to life, everything came flooding back. The pain, the memories, mostly their sense of self. They admit that since that day, a part of them had died along with it, and they no longer feel exactly the same as they did before. For better or for worse, they know what it's like, and honestly, it actually comforts me to know that's how it transitions. They're doing okay now, pursuing their hobbies and working. It's just something that haunts them now, but we all have those clinging experiences in some form or fashion, right? Story 26. I was having a diagnostic laparoscopy done when I was 25. For some reason, the stuff that usually puts you to sleep when they tell you to count down never kicked in. They didn't realize this, and they started to push the anesthesia while I was still awake. I could feel so much pressure on my chest, and I couldn't get a breath in. I looked at the anesthesiologist, and he said it's okay, he would give me more. All I remember is looking at him before everything went black. When I woke up after surgery and all the drugs left my system, I remembered that. I said to my sister, I know what it's going to feel like when I die and take my last breath. Since then, I haven't been scared about dying. Story 27. Did shrooms. Saw a vision of mine and my siblings' souls intertwined. It kind of looked like pieces of paper in a row, wrapped around a cylinder. Sounds weird, but there was something comforting about it and a feeling of us all being connected forever. Story 28. I'm one of nearly 8 billion people and one of countless life forms in general. I'm also a speck on one of uncountable bodies of mass floating around an unreachable, unseeable end. My death will ultimately not change a thing. No one's will. Therefore, whatever. All this said, that doesn't mean I don't ascribe personal meaning to my own life. I still enjoy what I have. I'm just saying that to specifically answer why I'm not afraid of dying if it happens. Story 29. It saddens me that 90% here believe there is nothing after. I personally believe it is on to the next stage. Our society is so atheist, agnostic at best. I am sure the persecution awaits me now with this comment. Story 30. Not afraid of dying because we all will at some point. I'm more afraid of dying painfully and slowly. Falling off a building, drowning, catching on fire, doesn't sound like fun. Story 31. I am usually not afraid of death, as it is like a natural end of a long day or long week. Time for me to rest and for the world to leave me behind. It is a relief in some ways. It is natural. Other times, I am terrified of death and the agony of aging and sickness as part of the journey. The universe can be cruel. How I feel sometimes changes by the minute. Story 32. This is a miserable society, a miserable world, intent on poisoning the entire environment with selfishness, no empathy, and no care for giving anything about ourselves, our neighbors, or anything else. People in power use their authority to plan and execute ways to humiliate, degrade, and disrespect at every turn. There is nothing here worth the struggle of simply surviving. Nothing. Story 33. I am not afraid of death, just the possible pain and suffering that may accompany it. A small part of me would love to see what happens with my kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, etc., but we don't have the technology to live forever yet. Story 34. I view death as being like fearing the dark before you have even stepped into it, mainly about the unknown. Death represents the ultimate end. What you are now isn't dead, and what you become after death isn't you. My deeper concern is the grief I might leave for those who care about me. I do not want them to miss or need me once I am gone. Story 35. Because I know where I'm going once I die. Because of the gift that Jesus Christ offers through his death on the cross, eternal life in him. Because I know I am forgiven and made right with God through Jesus. And because I know where I and all believers are going is so much better than here. This is not my home. There's so much glory to look forward to after this life if you know that you're going to heaven. And the only way there is through faith in Christ. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." John 14 verse 6. Story 36. For me, I twist it and think I'm going to end up as worm food at some point, so I may as well enjoy it while I have it. It helps to put a lot of things into perspective at times and makes me want to leave a mark or make a difference before I go. Story 37. Not afraid of death. It's the how and when. Hopefully, it's quick, painless, and at least 20 to 30 years away. The actual dying part isn't scary. It's a fact, and we all will die. It's not optional, so all you can do is try to have the best run you can and try to plan for those you leave behind. Story 38. I used to be so afraid of dying. I am afraid of loneliness, suffering, anxiety, not mastering my own mind. Studying the Stoics helped. Everyone dies, you can only control so much. Story 39. This world is broken. I would rather pass away than live to see its total destruction at our hands. I am afraid of the pain, the lack of peace in my final moments, but not of death. I am much more afraid of dying alone. Story 40. I don't fear dying anymore as much as I fear dying without my dignity. I am terrified of being found dead mid-shitpost on Reddit or binging cringe reels on Instagram, with my pants around my ankles on the toilet. I guess I fear how I will die more than dying itself. Story 41. I am not afraid to die. I am afraid to leave everyone behind. I am afraid to miss all the things my children are going to see and do. I am afraid to miss every new invention and all progress. Indeed, I would upload myself in a heartbeat if that meant I could stay and watch everything forever. I am not afraid to die. I am afraid to leave.